What is the Creative Commons? In this presentation, you will learn some of the background and basics that answer that question. Specifically, we will look at the Copyright Term Extension Act, also known as the Sonny Bono CTEA, the landmark Supreme Court case of Eldred v. Ashcroft that soon followed. We'll then broaden our perspective and talk about exactly what the Creative Commons is, the goal of Creative Commons licensing, and lastly, we'll explore ways you could become involved with the Creative Commons and the CC Global Network. The Creative Commons was created to help address the tension between the creator's ability to share digital works globally and copyright regulation. The Internet revolutionized how creators could broadly share their content, but copyright laws did not follow suit. What had begun as the protection of creator rights quickly evolved into burdensome constraints. Let's look at some important moments in the evolution of U.S. copyright law. On May 31, 1790, the first copyright law was enacted under the new United States Constitution. Modeled off Britain's Statute of Anne, the new law was relatively limited in scope, protecting books, maps, and charts for only 14 years, with a renewal period of another 14 years available. Congress amended the Copyright Act of 1790 many times over the next century. These amendments greatly changed what works were covered, for how long, and how works were registered. In March 1909, Theodore Roosevelt signed the law's third revision and extended copyright protection to 56 years from the publication date. In October 1976, President Ford signed the fourth revision to the U.S. Copyright Act. This revision protected both published and unpublished works under federal copyright law. More importantly, for works created after January 1, 1978, the time the work was protected was extended to the author's life plus 50 years. In 1998, the CTEA extended copyright to the creator's life plus 70 years. For works where a corporate entity holds the copyright, the protection was extended to 95 years from publication or 120 years from creation, whichever was shortest. Lastly, it's worth noting that in 2018, Congress passed the Music Modernization Act to update protection for music in the ever-evolving digital marketplace. In short, the reach and length of copyright protection expanded exponentially through time. Let's take a few minutes to focus on a Supreme Court ruling that sparked a fire that later became the Creative Commons. Stanford law professor Lawrence Lessig believed that the CTEA was unconstitutional. Lessig represented a web publisher, Eldred, who had made a career of making works available as they passed into the public domain. Lessig argued that any copyright law must be subject to scrutiny under the First Amendment, thereby ensuring a balance between freedom of speech and the interests of copyright. He believed that by retroactively extending copyright terms, Congress had violated the requirements of the Constitution's Copyright Clause. That clause gives Congress the power to, quote, promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for a limited time to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. In response, the government argued that Congress has the latitude to retroactively extend terms so long as the individual extensions are also for a, quote, limited time as required by the Constitution. The case moved through the legal system until it reached the U.S. Supreme Court. And on January 15, 2003, the court held the CTA constitutional in a 7-2 decision. Thus, as long as the limit is not forever, any limit set by Congress can be deemed constitutional. During this same time, Lessig and Eldred were developing the Creative Commons license. They saw a need for a license between the existing models of copyright and public domain. In short, some rights reserved as opposed to the all rights reserved nature of the law. Version 1.0 of the Creative Commons licenses was officially released on December 16, 2002. So, what is the Creative Commons? Well, it's actually more than one thing. Creative Commons is a set of legal tools, a nonprofit, and a movement. The CC licenses are legal tools that are an alternate for creators who choose to share their works with the public under more permissive terms than the default all rights reserved. The legal tools are integrated into user-generated content platforms like YouTube, Flickr, and Jamendo. They also allow the creator to share their work in a way that is consistent with copyright law, but creates a digital commons of content that's freely available for anyone to use. As a small nonprofit organization that stewards the Creative Commons legal tools and helps power the open movement, Creative Commons is a distributed organization with staff and contractors working from various locations worldwide. The three pillars of the Creative Commons as an organization are advocacy, where they reshape the open ecosystem to support equitable and pro-social sharing in the public interest. Innovation, where they hope to enhance the open infrastructure to foster sustainable and ethical sharing in the public interest. And finally, capacity building, making knowledge and cultural heritage assets as openly accessible as possible. The Creative Commons is also a global movement. Since 2001, the Creative Commons Global Network has formed around open licensing. The CCGN is just one player in a much larger set of movements, such as Wikipedians. Currently, Creative Commons Global Network has over 700 members and 45 chapters worldwide. However, the greatest emphasis is placed on Creative Commons licenses as the engine of the open environment. The following video provides an excellent overview of why CC licenses are important to content creators wanting to share their work. It also highlights what is possible when creators share their work under these CC licenses.
What does it mean to be human if we don't have a shared culture? And what does a shared culture mean if you can't share it?
It's only in the last 100 or 150 years or so that we've started tightly restricting how that culture gets used.
The internet enabled an infrastructure where anybody could participate without asking permission.
We have all these new technologies that allow people to express themselves, take control of their own creative impulses, but the law is getting in the way.
Creative Commons is designed to save the world from failed sharing. People who actually want to share stuff, who put it up on the web because they want to share it on certain terms.
So we wanted to create a simple way for creators to say to the world, here's the freedom that I want to run with my creative work. Here are the things you're allowed to do.
Can I reproduce it? Can I copy it? Can I put it in my textbook? Can I use that photograph? Can I make a new version of it?
Creative Commons gives tools to creators to make a choice about copyright.
Creative Commons license can cover anything that copyright covers.
Every license says, you need to give me attribution. I created this, give me credit for the work I did.
The basic choices are commercial use or not. Can you make derivative works, versions, adaptations, or not? And do you want me to have to share alike? So if I take your stuff, do I have to offer it to the next person under the same terms?
There's no requirement for you to do anything with your work other than what you want to do. You own the copyright to it. What we've done is given you the right to exercise your copyright in more ways, more simply.
So the idea here is to enable the creative impulses that the technology turns loose and get the law out of the way.
The work of Creative Commons is really about laying the infrastructure groundwork for this new type of culture, a new kind of folk culture.
Somebody from Delhi, somebody from New York, somebody from Singapore
can feel comfortable using a photo that was created and given away by someone in the United States or in China or wherever that the licenses have been extended to,
with their identity being preserved.
Which means that people can actually create new kinds of things, come together and build things.
Mashups that people can do with people's Flickr photos.
And CC Mixter has allowed artists to make music together.
It's really about creativity and connection.
Access and control.
From amateurs who simply, for the love of what they're doing and they want to share it and they want other people to be able to make use of it, to commercial organizations.
In the end, this will have a very successful place in the for-profit economy.
Creative Commons is the bridge to this future. Is you got to move away from thinking about content to thinking about communities. Communities that develop around content, and the sharing that the licenses allow enable these communities to come together.
A physical commons is like a park where anybody can enter equally. A commons with intellectual works is actually much freer.
It really is going to be the pillar for communications between people, cultural exchange.
The space for more speech, more free expression.
And that's the kind of commons we're trying to create.
Did this whole sharing thing work? Did creators embrace openness and the Creative Commons the way that their creators imagined? Well, today, Creative Commons licenses are used on nearly 2 billion works across over 9 million websites. So how can you get involved now that you know more about the CC? The Creative Commons Global Network is a place for everyone interested in and working with open movements. To see if there's a chapter near you, click on the CC Global Network link provided in the description below. Suppose that you are involved with galleries, libraries, archives, or museums. In that case, Open GLAM is a way to connect with your peers across the globe. For corporations wanting to embrace open, the Garwood Center for Corporate Innovation at UC Berkeley brings together scholars and practitioners, from executives to students, to understand open innovation and overcome the unique challenges of openly innovating in large enterprises. There are opportunities to become involved with open data. Open data is a phenomenon that denotes that government data should be available to anyone with a possibility of redistribution in any form without any form of copyright or restriction. Finally, another opportunity is through scientific research and the open science movement. In short, open science seeks to make scientific research, including publications, data, physical samples, and software, accessible to all levels of society, amateur or professional. As you can see, opportunities to engage with and promote a culture of openness abound. All you need to do is be creative, thoughtful, engaging, generous, and open. I'm Linda Williams, Professor of Business Administration at Tidewater Community College. This presentation is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 international license.